Well, Alex was taken into a stronghold, which was built from rocks from the nearby mountain to fortify the village. And he was really excited because this is the first time that he's ever been in this stronghold. So as he went in, he was looking around and he seen all the soldiers, and they were polishing their swords and their armor. And this is the first time he had seen, guards in full armor. All different types, scale, chain, full plate armor. And Alex was just really fascinated. As he went through the stronghold, he heard one of the guards say, "Hey, Alex," and because he knew a few of them because it was a lot of the guards wore husbands and mates that he had known before they joined, because a lot of them were young men because they were brought in to help fortify the village. So they took him up these steps, and it was a spiral staircase, and it went all the way up, and it got a little darker, but they had the what they call blighters, which held torches. And so he went on up, and they went to the very top, where a man sat reading some papers, some parchments. And he looked over the parchments, and he said, "And who you might be?" And he said, "My name's Alex." He said, "I'm here to join the Red Guard." He thought for a minute. He said, "Your father was in the Red Guard." And he said, "Yes, sir." He said, "But he went missing 5 years ago." He said, "Yes, we know that's unfortunate. We have many that's MIA, and we're not sure what happened to them." He said, "We're a small unit here." He said, "We're down to about 32 men. And he said, "And that's not really enough." He said, I hear that you're here for your orientation." And he said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, this is what we're going to do." He said, "I want you to go down to the One-Eyed Goblin, and the manager there has your task for you." And Alex thought it was peculiar, to send him there. Why there? He thought he was just going to go out and hunt. So he said, "Okay, sir," and he saluted. He said, "No, we don't salute." He said, "We just do a slight, bow and curtsy," and which was, I don't know quite how it was, but anyway, he did the bow and curtsy, and he turned and he left. And he got down to the bottom of the tower, and it was a real nice day. It looked like it was getting ready to rain, a slight drizzle. Well, he started off to the One-Eyed Goblin, and he remembered his mom always telling him to stay away from the One-Eyed Goblin. And here he is going, because, it's a pretty rough place. Because you got other adventurers, and you got men that, had come in, and a lot of drunks, and thieves, especially. So, Alex, he had his coin purse with him, and he was watching it, because, he had a couple of copper, and he didn't want them stolen. So he went in. He went in to find it was quite full. For a small village, the bar, it's fairly small too. But when you got a small place, they can get full pretty quick. And there's about 14 people in there. And he come up to the bar, sat down, and then he heard this big gruff voice. He said, "I don't serve ye miners." And he goes, "Well, I'm not here to drink," he said. He said, I'm here for the Red Guard." He goes, "They're really getting them young these days." And he says, "Yeah, this is my orientation." And he said, "Well, this is what I need you to do." He said, "I need you to go up in the mountains and hunt for me." And he said, "Oh, well, I can do that." He said, "Yeah." He said, "I need some meat." He said, convoy, the convoys haven't come in to bring any meat." And he said, "I can't very well make stew without meat." He said, "Just potatoes and carrots you get fussed at, so I need some meat for my stew." And he said, "You think you can handle that, boy?" He said, "Sure I can." So Alex hopped up and got his gear ready and took off through the door. And he walked past the gate and he decided that he'll go up into the mountains a little ways, because he figured that that'd be a good place to capture a stag or some kind of large animal of that nature. Instead of going in the field and getting a bunch of rabbits, he thought he'd bring back something bigger, because he wanted to impress the Red Claw. So he started up the mountain, and he noticed he was getting a little higher and a little higher until he came up to about a flat field. It went on up a little ways, but he found a flat field, and all of a sudden he heard a rustle, and he froze, and he pulled his bow and he notched it back, and he just scanned the landscape, and he crouched down just like his father had taught him. And then he heard another rustle. Then all of a sudden, here comes this big stag up over the ridge, a beautiful stag, and it just come up over the ridge, and it looked up and sort of snorted. And Alex come up with his bow, and he pulled back. Then he heard a little voice in his head that said, "Steady." It shocked him at first, but he said, like, "Who is that?" It wasn't like it was somebody behind him or the side. He heard it in his head. And so he shot the arrow, and the arrow hit the stag right into the throat. A perfect shot. The stag went down like a sack of potatoes. Just... And he was amazed. He's like, "Well, what happened?" Then all of a sudden he heard something behind him. He heard in a rough voice, "Nice shot, boy." And he froze. And he's like, "Uh-oh." He slowly turned around to see a shadowy figure he was also hunkered down where Alex couldn't see him. And he stood up, and as he stood up, he realizes how tall he was. About 6'5", big old thing. And then when he stepped a little closer out of the shadows, he seen what he was. It was an orc, and a vicious orc. He had teeth jutting out from the bottom and teeth jutting from the top, and he had a flat head, and he was gray. He was what they call a gray orc, and he was just in there. "What are you doing here all alone, boy?" And he goes, "It looks like I'm going to take home 2 trophies. Alex, he looked and he said, and he staring, he goes, "Shut up, boy." And he started coming toward Alex, and Alex pulled his sword, and the orc started to laugh. He goes, "You are doomed, boy." And then he heard that same little voice go, "Run, up there." And he turned and looked up the path, and he took the advice. He didn't know where it was coming from. But he took it. He ran up to the side of the mountain, the orc close behind him. The orc reached out, and he gotten a good 20 feet up there underneath the tree, and the orc reached out and grabbed his ankle and pulled him, and he rolled over, and the orc was almost on top of him. And then that's when he heard the voice said, "In the tree, kick." And Alex took both his legs and kicked the orc right in the groin, and he grabbed his genitals and went, oh, and reared up. And when he reared up, there was a hornet's nest up in the tree, and the orc bashed his head against the hornet's nest, and hornets went everywhere, and he went swatting and kicking everything, and he backed off Alex, and he took a few steps, and all of a sudden he fell off the side of the cliff, going and fell all the way down 30 feet to his death. Alex looked over the cliff in awe, and he said, wow. And then he heard that little voice say, good job. And he said, who are you? I am with you. And he still couldn't figure out, So he sheathed his sword, and then he heard the voice again go, oh no, the village. And he said, huh? And he looked up, and he seen barreling smoke off in the distance. Alex decided to leave his trophy stag. He had to get to the village as soon as possible, because if there was one orc, that meant there was many, and they had apparently attacked the village, and smoke was coming from the village. So Alex, in a panic, ran toward it. Well, that was the end of Chapter 2. Chapter 3 be coming soon. The adventure continues.